Hey everyone, welcome back to Bipolar Brought Balance. Today I'm just doing a little bit of an update and promo for my new show, Success Rewritten, which launches in 7 days on March 17th. If you've been following the channel a little bit, you might know that I started an LLC and officially decided to launch my own show. There had been this period of time after I was laid off where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And ultimately, I decided to launch a show as kind of the foundation for my own intellectual property. I've spent the past 11 years working for Yelp, doing a lot on behalf of the company, and even the past 5 years that I spent as the host of Behind the Review. None of that work is technically mine. Sure, you can look it up or go watch or listen to the content that we created to get a sense of me as a host or some of my knowledge as a small business expert. But at the end of the day, Yelp or Entrepreneur could take any of that down at any time. And it's not a full picture of what I really want to focus on going forward. I love working with small business. I still plan to consult and coach small business owners. But at the end of the day, the conversations that I want to have on the mic are a little bit deeper. And many of the guests that we're going to feature on Success Rewritten are entrepreneurs or small business owners, but some of them aren't. And that's kind of what the fun new chapter of mine is about. So let's break it down and hopefully get you guys excited. So I was laid off in November 2025. I had been hosting a podcast for over 5 years that was all about small business owners. But in my own life outside of work in 2018, I had a manic episode and I was in inpatient mental health treatment where I received a bipolar disorder diagnosis. I was inpatient for about a week. I then did about 7 weeks of outpatient treatment. So that's full day, Monday through Friday, you go to therapy basically instead of going to work. And in that period in my life, there was so much new information that I was trying to take on. Not only this diagnosis, but what it meant for my future, what sort of things I would need to do to stay healthy and balanced. And my treatment team identified pretty early on that my job and my lifestyle weren't the most conducive for bipolar disorder. So at that time in 2018, I was a small business expert spokesperson. So I would travel to conferences, trade shows, conventions, and educate small business owners on all the free tools available to make the most of their presence on Yelp. And I would also host events and attend networking gatherings and grow a community of business owners in market. So first in San Francisco, I did a little bit in San Jose. And then when I moved back to the Midwest, I did Chicago, Minneapolis. And in that period, I was working in different time zones a lot. I was traveling a lot. And I didn't have very firm boundaries around when I worked. I always kind of felt like there was more work to be done. And I got a lot of value and worth out of being good at my job, having an important job. And so that relationship was a little bit unhealthy in hindsight. But at the time, I didn't really realize that. And so when I was going through treatment and I received my bipolar disorder diagnosis, some of the biggest changes that I needed to make were sleeping 2+ additional hours every night and having some different boundaries around work, like not checking my email first thing in the morning, but instead having a morning routine, getting off email around 5:30 or 6 and not looking at it again till the next day. So these things that I was told I needed to do to stay healthy and stable kind of felt like things that were going to be impossible if I was going to be good at my job still. And so I was a little bit nervous, but I returned to work and tried to implement the changes. And I really remember thinking, I hope I don't have to find a new job because I really like what I do, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do my job the way I used to. Like that was very heavy on me, that because I now knew I had bipolar disorder, this might not be the best fit for me. And so I made all the changes. I was on medication as well and adjusting to medication. So some of the things like sleeping more, it wasn't like I could pick or choose. I just physically was sleeping more than I used to. And so that decreased the number of active hours I had in a day. But ultimately, after about 3 months being back at work, I was honored my promotion that I had been expecting prior to medical leave. And you know, during my journey at Yelp, I always kind of felt like promotions were based on a period of time, not what you had necessarily accomplished. But I was thinking, surely I was on medical leave for 3 months. There's no way I'm going to be up for my promotion at this next period. But I was honored my promotion. And I remember my boss specifically telling me, I know you've had to make a lot of changes, but you are still doing your job and you're doing it well. You're succeeding. And that's because of the relationships and the foundation that you've built. So keep it up, keep taking care of yourself. And from that point forward, I kind of felt confident, like, yeah, I can prioritize myself and my health and put work second and still be really good at what I do. And so I had the privilege and the benefit of navigating that entire mental health episode and journey while I was working for a big company, while I had really good insurance and got treatment and care. And that was amazing. I mean, I definitely saw that as a privilege, an advantage, and something that I did take advantage of. And ultimately, a year after I had been hospitalized, I decided to speak publicly about my diagnosis. I launched my blog, Bipolar Brought Balance, my social media account. And I remember having to ask work, like, I'm going to publicly do this. Is that okay? Because I was out publicly as the face of Yelp doing speaking opportunities and other things. And they not only said, yes, it was okay, they encouraged it. And I knew that being at an organization that valued me and elevated me because of this, instead of treated me differently or put me in a box, was an advantage. And so I tried to be as open as I could internally at work, and that led to fun things like leading the employee resource group for mental health, and also leading to a lot of conversations and people sharing stuff that they haven't shared before or typically wouldn't. And so in that time frame, when I was still employed by Yelp and sharing and doing some of that advocacy, I realized it was something that I always wanted to do. I wasn't going to go back ever and not publicly share this now that it was out there. So I really wanted to lean into it. But unfortunately, when I was working at Yelp and I had the podcast, I didn't have a ton of free time or energy, I should say, to do as much mental health stuff as I wanted to. And so when I was laid off in November, I remember in November and December thinking, I want to do more with mental health. I really want this to be a bigger part of my future and of my journey. And when I started conceptualizing a show, like what kind of show would I want to host if it's my own, I really loved this idea of the intersection of entrepreneurship and mental health. In my decade plus at Yelp and talking to thousands of business owners over the years, I know that diagnosis or not, mental health plays a huge role in the entrepreneurial journey. There are highs, lows, some loneliness. There's a lot that goes into being an entrepreneur and running your own business. And it's not smooth sailing. I'm not even going to say it's not always smooth sailing. If anyone has run a business, they can tell you they've had rough times. And so I wanted to have those conversations where we talk about success and accomplishment, but we also talk about real life stuff that has maybe caused us to evaluate what success looks like, or to adjust and better align what we do with what matters to us. So I was talking about the show concept. I was putting it out there to people, getting lots of opinions. Should it be more mental health focused? Should it be less? And ultimately in January, I had, in my opinion, fully flushed out what this concept would be. Success Rewritten. That's the show. That's the name. I built a deck. I even came up with some guest archetypes, like who are the people that you're going to hear on this show? Who's the listener? And in doing that entire process, I realized small business is a huge part of my network, but it's not the entire focus of this new direction. So entrepreneurship is a huge pillar, but there's also executives, leaders, athletes, just people who navigate through life and do it differently because of something they've experienced. For some people like myself, maybe it's a mental health episode. For some people, maybe it's physical health related. Maybe it's a loss. It could be grief, the loss of a partner, the loss of a child, the loss of a parent. For some people, it's the birth of a child, right? All of these things that happen in our lives that cause us to shift and alter our output effectively. And what I found before I even started this show was many people go through hard things. I think we've all become more aware to the fact that so many people in our lives are dealing with stuff we might not even know about. But what is a little bit less rare still is reflecting on these hard times in a way that shows the outcome as a completely unknown positive. And I guess if we just dive into my personal experience, being laid off was very scary, especially as someone who manages their mental health in part because of the support and resources that I had, right? I had great insurance. I could see my doctors and keep my medication up at low to no cost. And so, yes, that was very troubling when I lost my job. But at the same time, it's giving me a chance to do this. And I know I never would have quit a job with a great salary and health insurance to pursue my own thing. And so now, with a couple months hindsight, I'm super glad that I'm no longer at Yelp because I was staying for many of the wrong reasons. And now I have a chance to do this. And so even though that's still a period of hardship and I still have to figure out how I'm going to replace a very healthy salary over the next few months and years, it was a shove and a shift and a change in how I spend my time, what I care about. And even, for example, like if I had wanted to leave Yelp prior to being laid off, I would have been looking for a job opportunity that would have paid me similar. And when I was laid off, the first thing I thought was, I don't need that much money to function or to live. Let's spend time doing what I want to do. And so these guests, these people that I talk to, they're able to reflect on these periods that have been really challenging or really tough, but now see a different outcome, a different end goal, a different North Star because of this shift. And unfortunately, and oftentimes, these shifts are the worst points in some people's lives. And that's been the reminder that I've been having in some of these interviews is, you know, I'm talking to successful people, people who are in the middle of projects and things that they're happy about and excited about, but they've gone through and are going through really hard things. And being able to sit together and share space and talk about that in a safe way where we're not trying to fix it, but we're just reflecting on it has been so powerful. And I just finished my 8th interview. I have another one later this week. And these people are amazing. I mean, not only have they accomplished amazing things, but going through these really hard periods, many of them unexpected, not planned, and having outcomes that they now look back and say, I can't imagine my life any other way, but their current life was never something they planned for. And I'm just excited. I'm excited for you guys to hear the conversations. I'm hoping that when you listen, you just think like, I got to send this to this person and this person and this person, because to me, that's good storytelling, right? And we honestly don't talk about all the things you should do to feel better or navigate or get to the next step, but sometimes they get brought up. I mean, advice or tactics or things to try are definitely discussed, but ultimately we just reflect on the challenging parts of life that people have to navigate and how they change the trajectory of where you're going. And for some people, they rewrite their own success, and for some people, success is rewritten for them. But in all these cases, the reflection is really where the value is. And so I'm hoping that all of my listeners can get that too. Whether you're listening and this week, month, or year has been amazing for you, or one of the hardest periods you navigated through, I'm hoping that these conversations can highlight that we're all dealing with stuff and also normalize talking about it, asking for help, reaching out to others, and using these as connection points. And I know for me, when I talk about my mental health journey, I feel so grateful that I can help others and share what I've been through. But that doesn't mean I have it figured out. I mean, with the launch of this show, I've been navigating working too much, staying up late, that impacting my sleep. I still very much have to navigate that. And I'll be completely transparent. I have not figured out how I'm going to replace my salary. The podcast is not going to be the moneymaker. And so I can provide, advice or share my journey of how I've navigated mental health, but I have daily stressors that I'm still working through. And I think that's the other beauty of the show. None of these people would ever describe themselves as complete or done. So many of the conversations reflect on periods from the past, and then we bring that reflection to current day too, and we work through what's top of mind for them right now. So the show by no means is going to be a highlight reel of all of the successes people have after they fall. It's going to be a safe, welcoming space for people to hold and hopefully feel less alone, knowing that there's others going through it. And the people who have been on, salt of the earth. I have known many of them for many years, but some of them I've been connected to for the first time to do this show, and they're just amazing. We're sitting in different spaces, oftentimes time zones away, and sitting in the mud and looking at it and deciding what is important now and not committing to anything as being it for forever. But how do we together share more of what we're going through in a way that allows us to be more understanding and accepting of others? And I think that's my ultimate goal, right? Whether you listen to an episode and that person's experience resonates with you because you felt it, or it resonates with you because you think, maybe that other person in my network is experiencing that. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for you to listen. I'm excited for you to tell me what you think. And it's evolving. So if you have suggestions or questions, I'd love to hear from you. And I'm also trying to figure out how to keep up Bipolar Brought Balance in addition to Success Rewritten, because Success Rewritten is going to span a lot of different topics and life inflection points, whereas Bipolar Brought Balance is definitely more mental health driven and focused. So I'll try to keep up Bipolar Brought Balance maybe with a weekly video or 2 videos a month. But if we want to see more interviews with mental health conversations or more things that live in this Bipolar Brought Balance world, let me know. And I've also been doing a lot of work in the mental health space. So this Friday, I'm presenting at the Wisconsin Emergency Nurses Conference. I'm going to be doing an experience presentation where I talk about my lived experience in the emergency department and also give some advice for how ED nurses can be more impactful and successful with mental health interactions. I also did a couple of podcast episodes with Rogers Behavioral Health, so I'll link those in the notes, but I'm trying to share more of my story on other platforms as well. So if you have mental health platforms or advocates that you think I should know or network with, please let me know, because I'm definitely trying to grow in that realm as well as launch Success Rewritten. So I'm super grateful for everyone that's here, listening, supporting me online, offline, and I'm super excited to show you all what's next. So Hopefully you enjoy it. 7 days from today is launch, March 17th, 2026. And yeah, that's St. Patrick's Day, which feels like a little bit weird and random because at Yelp we would like avoid holidays or skip holiday weeks to publish. But it worked out perfectly with the timing of all my interviews, and it feels really special because St. Patrick's Day was a really special holiday to my grandma Bev. She's Irish. She was my Washkovic grandma. She's no longer with us, but I know she would love this. She would not understand what I'm doing, but she would love it. And in addition to that, I have a very dear great aunt and great uncle, Joe and Pat, for many years. I mean, probably their whole time together, which has been many decades. They've thrown amazing St. Patrick's Day parties. They love to celebrate with their friends. It's very much an honored holiday of theirs. And I don't know if she'll be embarrassed that I'm saying this, but my Aunt Pat is my family member who has supported this launching and given some of that financial stability to get this thing off the ground. And her husband, my great uncle Joe, is not with us anymore. But he was such an amazing person and an incredible entrepreneur. He had a payroll business for many, many years, very successful, sold it to a huge payroll company, and I know he would be so proud of me. And so I'm very glad to be launching on St. Patrick's Day. That was not on purpose, but it feels very kismet. It feels very right. And yeah, I'm so glad that you all are here. I'm so excited for this new journey, and I'm so grateful for everyone in my life who's been supporting me. Sharing, liking, subscribing, all of that stuff helps. And just telling me what you think is also good too. Yeah, I didn't plan on crying, but I do say a good interview on Success Rewritten is when I cry. So I'll just keep that in my back pocket for myself. But no, I'm lucky, I'm blessed, I'm honored. And yeah, the people before me are the ones who made it possible. So grateful. Aunt Pat Riley, Uncle Joe. 7 days, Success Rewritten will be live. Episode 1, my story and how the show got started. All right, see you next time.